Hello and welcome back to Peaky Boardgamer. My name is Aktarakos and today I will explain the game Whirling Witchcraft. It is a game for 2 to 5 players, takes 30 minutes to finish, and it's designed by Eric Anderson Sundin and produced by AEG. It is a family board game in which players are trying to load their opponents with potion ingredients as fast as possible to the point they cannot handle them. Let's move to the table and see how the game is played. In the game, players take the role of sorcerers holding a unique power. On every round, players will be playing one recipe card in front of their play area. Then players use any number of their recipes played so far in the game by consuming ingredients from their personal stock on their workbench. Used recipes produce more ingredient cubes that are taken from the general supply. After all players are done using their recipes, all of the produced ingredients are passed to the players to their right. Players then unload their new ingredients on workbench spaces. If a player is overloaded and cannot find room for new ingredients, all of these new ingredients are scored by the player to their left. After a player scores 5 ingredients, the game ends and that player is declared the winner in Whirling Witchcraft. At first, create a supply of ingredient cubes in the middle of the table, and then shuffle and create a stack of recipe cards that should be placed facing downwards. Each player takes a player board and a cauldron. The colors are not important. Also, each player takes an Arcana card as well as 3 Arcana markers, one of each type. At this point, each player takes a random personality card. Each personality offers the player a unique power that can be used throughout the game. Players that are new to this game should take one of the Initiate personality cards instead, which features a more basic effect. Personality card powers are quite self-explanatory. I cannot explain each one of those, however you can find some clarifications in the last page of the rulebook. Now players will take their initial ingredient cubes as it's depicted in this side of their personality card. Ingredients come in 5 different types: green, blue, red, white and black. These cubes are taken from the supply and are placed to the dedicated spaces, filling from left to right. Each square space can hold only one ingredient of the depicted type. Players then flip their personality cards to the side depicting their ability. If a player's power depicts one of the Arcana symbols, the player moves the corresponding Arcana marker to the next space on the track. Finally, players are dealt 4 random recipe cards from the supply, and the game is now ready to start. The game is played in rounds until the end of the game is triggered. Each round is split to 2 phases, a study phase and a brewing phase. In the study phase, players first examine their cards and then choose one to play facing downwards in their play area. After all players are done playing one of their cards, players simultaneously reveal their cards. The card has to be positioned so that the arrow points downwards. Many of the cards depict this symbol instead of an arrow. With this card, the player has the option to play them normally or upside down. Very important, the player playing these cards must choose the direction when playing them facing downwards. And in the second step, the player simply flips the card. Recipe cards are used to transform ingredients and have a top part and a bottom part. The top part are input ingredients that have to come from the player's own resources. The bottom part are produced ingredients that come from the general supply. All this will apply later in the brewing phase. In the last step of the study phase, if the just revealed card depicts any Arcana symbols, the player moves the corresponding Arcana markers forward. In this example, the Flask of Dreams I just played depicts this cauldron symbol, so I move the cauldron marker to the first space. Whenever Arcana markers reach or pass an even number, they trigger a specific effect. I will explain all 3 effects later in this video so that you are aware of the mechanics of the game. However, you should know from now that the player may choose not to trigger the effect without being able, of course, to carry the effect for a next round. Also, if a marker reaches the end of this track, then it continues movement again from number 1. So to recap the study phase, all players first play one of their cards facing downwards, then all players reveal their cards, and in the last step players move their Arcana symbols and trigger Arcana effects if applicable. In the brewing phase, all players simultaneously use any number of recipes played so far in any order in order to produce more ingredient cubes. Players need to cover the ingredients depicted in the top part of the card using their own cubes, for example 3 green cubes here, and then produce the cubes depicted in the bottom part from the general supply. This specific symbol means the player may choose any type, so I will choose a red cube. Very important, players may also use cubes produced from another recipe as input for another one. For example, the Flask of Dreams here requires either a red or a green cube. I could take a green cube from here, a red cube from here, or even this cube from the other recipe. Then the recipe produces either a green or a blue cube. I choose a blue cube and a green cube as well. When players finish using their recipes, they discard the cubes played as input in the top part of each recipe back to the general supply, and they place all the produced ingredients onto their cauldron. When all players have placed their cubes onto their cauldron, they pass their cauldron to the player to their right. Upon receiving their new ingredients, players must unload all of them to applicable workbench spaces. If any of these cubes cannot be unloaded, then these are returned back to the player to their left, who will immediately score them by placing them to the witch's circle. At this point, players check if any of the players has 5 or more ingredients in their witch's circle. If that is the case, the game ends and the player who has the most cubes in the witch's circle is declared the winner. If, however, no player has reached 5 cubes, the game continues. Players pass the remaining hand of cards to the player to their left, and then refill their hands back to 4 by taking a card from the general stack. The game then continues with the next round. If at the game's end players tie for the most cubes in the witch's circle, we have a triple tie here, then the winner is the player who has scored the most different types of cubes. So this player in our example cannot win. Then, if the tie still exists, the winner is the tied player who has the least ingredients on their workbench. After that, and if the tie still exists, all tied players share their victory. Now let's explain the 3 Arcana effects. When the bird effect is triggered, the player may remove up to 2 ingredients from their workbench back to the general supply. This can be the same or even different ingredients. When the cauldron effect is triggered, the player takes any ingredient from the general supply and places it straight onto their cauldron. Finally, when the book effect is triggered, the player chooses any one of the ingredient types. For the upcoming brewing phase only, that player may use any number of the chosen ingredient type from the general supply, apart from their own ingredients that may be used as well. And that were the rules of Whirling Witchcraft, a very fast-paced family game that I really enjoy to play. If you like our videos and want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, have fun and play more board games.